People, God bless you. I got a question the other day, came through Renew, that I thought I'd share with you. It's a real tough one for and a lot of parents have to struggle with. I had to struggle with it when I was raising my children. This person wrote that their son is picked on by this bully at school, and even has been beaten up by this bully at school. And they want to know, how should they respond? They believe that Jesus taught nonviolence and loving enemies, and that's really a centerpiece of the gospel. And so this person's saying, do I, in the case of my son, teach him how to defend himself, or do I not? And if I don't teach him how to defend himself and tell him to fight back, then what should I do? Do we just allow this to go on? That can't be loving for him or loving for this other person. What's the right way to respond to this? Well, here's what I would suggest to this. First of all, this person's right that Jesus tells us to love our enemies, do good to our enemies, pray for our enemies, and to swear off all violence. Do not resist an evildoer, he says in Matthew 5. And the word there means to not resist with force. Paul says, never return evil with evil, but return evil with good. Instead of retaliating, give your enemy food if they're hungry, or something to drink if they're thirsty, etc., etc. And so that closes the door, I think, on having your children retaliate. It's just, this is where the rubber hits the road. This is what the kingdom means. That's why Jesus made it the criteria for being a child of God. He says in Matthew 5, 44 and 45, that we're to love our enemies and swear off all violence, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. This is his character, and if we're his children, we're to manifest that character, and it's the distinctive trademark of a kingdom person. So it closes the door on retaliating. Now, what can you do in its place? Here's what I recommend. First of all, it's a great teaching opportunity. I would, and you have to do this in age-appropriate ways, depending on the age of your daughter or son, but explain to them this isn't just a rule. Give some teaching around it. Why does Jesus tell us to love our enemies and not retaliate? And tell them about how when we retaliate, we sink to the level of our enemies, that they're being empowered to define us. Whereas, in truth, only God should define us, and his character should define us. We don't want to sink to the level of our enemies. Talk to them about how every person has unsurpassable worth because of the fact that Jesus died for them. And our most fundamental job as kingdom people is to agree with God about that and to reflect that in how we think about people and how we speak about people and to people and how we respond to their aggression. And so give some teaching around that. I'd also encourage you to use this as a time to help your children in age-appropriate ways. To really be getting their identity and life and worth and security from their relationship with God. So that the assaults that come at school, whether it's name-calling or physical stuff, it doesn't pierce their soul. I mean, the most damaging part of some of the stuff is it can really hinder a kid's self-esteem. And they begin to see themselves as losers or whatever. And this is such a pandemic problem right now in our schools. This bullying, especially with texting and stuff, it's pandemic. And so here's a chance to talk about the importance of getting all of our worth and identity. You can hurt my body, and yeah, you can call me names, whatever, but I know who I am because of what God thinks about me as revealed on the cross. I'd really drive that home. I'd tell your son, and however you do this with daughters, tell them this: it takes a much bigger person, much bigger man, if you will, to walk away from a fight than it does to fight. It takes far more courage and bravado, if you will, to walk away from it. And that the only reason people engage in this kind of behavior is because they're needy. And talk about that. Well, and even have with your child, pray for this bully and ask God to heal whatever the wound is that's causing them to do this. People act this way. Who knows what the prequel to this kid is? But there is a prequel. Why is he acting this way? What need is he meeting? Or what aggression is he acting out? You wonder what's been done to him. I don't know. But it comes out of a wounded center. And that we show our health and our own self-esteem and worth by being able to walk away from these things. And that they don't pierce and destroy us. They don't pierce our soul. And then I would pray for this bully with your son or daughter. As part of how we do good to them. And then pray about other ways you maybe can do good to this person. I don't know what their situation is. It's always going to be particular. But are there other ways that you can bless this person? Whatever that might look like. Just being the opposite towards him as he is towards you. Now, having said all that, I'd also say this. And that is that this behavior's got to stop. This bullying's got to stop. It's not loving to let a person abuse you or your child. to go through life thinking that that's an appropriate way to treat people. And so it's got to stop. When Jesus says don't resist an evil person, the Greek word there's anthistemi, it just means retaliating in kind or in force. It rules out violent retaliation, but it doesn't mean do nothing. No, you can do a lot of things as long as it's consistent with ascribing unsurpassable worth to the person, and stopping the behavior is very consistent with that. In fact, it's mandated by that. And so pray about what you can do to stop this. One thing comes to mind is call the parents and sit down with the parents, maybe go over there. Now, as you do it not out of an aggression, out of animosity, anger, but do it out of concern for them and their child. And all the studies show that violent criminals, almost all of them, began acting out violence at a very young age. And putting a stop to it early on is crucial in terms of determining a person's life trajectory. And so express concern for the person. Now, if that doesn't work and the bullying continues, you go to them again. Or if the parents aren't reinforcing this, then it may be that you have to talk about other authorities. And that's not inconsistent with the gospel either. You're going to go to the school authorities. But you're doing it out of love for them and their kid. They may not see it that way. They think you're tattling or whatever. But you will do whatever it takes to stop this, because this isn't loving to your child and it's not loving to their child or to them. And I don't think it's, this is a little bit dicey, but I've known some who have felt okay even threatening a lawsuit if it continues, if the behavior warrants that. I've known several cases where it has. They wouldn't follow through on that. But they use that just to drive home the point that this is serious, serious stuff. And whatever it takes to get their attention, to intervene and do something about it, they're willing to do if it's done out of love. And it's not, stopping the behavior is not at all inconsistent with ascribing unsurpassable worth. As I said, it's mandated by it. You need God's wisdom raising kids, especially these days with the texting, bullying that's going on and things like that. But here's where the rubber hits the road and where we really cash in our kingdom chips. Are we going to live in a kingdom way or not? And I encourage us in all ways, in all shapes, ways, forms, with our kids, with our neighbors, at our jobs, live out the kingdom. And it always looks like Jesus Christ loving us while we were his enemies, and so we do the same towards all others. Live in love as Christ loved you and gave his life for you. God bless.